correct me if I'm wrong, but in the recent past, there was something that was changed that allows corporations to donate money the same way that an individual would.
Right. So in 2010, the United States Supreme Court decided a case called Citizens United. And Citizens United said that you couldn't limit a corporation's ability to spend money independently of a political campaign. So corporations not allowed to contribute directly, but that's not worth that much because you're only allowed to give a total of $5,400 to a candidate over the course of the life of his campaign. But what Citizens United said is that the Constitution protects the right of the corporation to engage in political speech independent of a political campaign. So if some congressman is running for Congress, Exxon Corporation can come in and spend $1 million to say why that congressman is a good congressman or why that congressman is a terrible congressman, but they have a constitutional right to do that. Now, when that happened, there were a bunch of us who were, chicken littles about this, who said, oh, this is the end of democracy because these corporations are just going to spend unbelievable amounts of money in the political process, like spending their money to affect the results. And that was not correct. Because what happened is corporations quickly discovered the high price of free speech, right? So corporations like Target backed a anti-gay candidate for governor, and all of a sudden found their stores being picketed across the country because people were furious that they would be supporting such a candidate for governor. So corporations quickly found that it's not cheap to engage in political speech in the marketplace. They didn't want to do it like that. Instead, they wanted to find a way to channel their money into dark money organizations or into what evolved after Citizens United, something called super PACs. So super PACs were created not by the Supreme Court. Super PACs were created by a lower court that said, well, if you can spend unlimited amounts of money, you should be allowed to give unlimited amounts of money to an independent political action committee. That was the super PAC. Supreme Court has never ruled on that question. We have a case that we're taking up through Alaska that's trying to appeal to the Supreme Court to get them to actually decide whether super PACs are mandated by the Constitution. And what's different about this case is the argument we're making is to the conservatives. What we're saying is the framers of our Constitution were obsessed with corruption. That was the issue that they were overwhelmingly trying to avoid. And they weren't focused on bribery. They were focused on institutional corruption, these institutions that became unconnected to their purpose, representing Americans. And what our view is these conservatives on the Supreme Court, like Neil Gorsuch or Justice Thomas or Brett Kavanaugh, who say that we interpret the Constitution the way the framers would have interpreted it. We're going to make the argument to them, which is there is no doubt the framers of the Constitution would have looked at these super PACs and said, these are an abomination. These are outrageous from the perspective of the democracy they were trying to create. And those justices should, at least one of them, be willing to stand up and defend the framers' values against this modern corruption. And if just one of them voted with the 4 liberals who've already said they think super PACs are an abomination, then we could have a way to end the super PACs in this system. And that would be an enormous benefit because they've become so powerful. But the courts alone can't save us. Even if you ended super PACs tomorrow, you still have Lesterland. Because the super PACs are not what I was talking about in Lesterland. When I was talking about Lesterland was giving to candidates directly. And the small number of people would still be giving to candidates directly. And the only way to solve that is for Congress to pass new laws that change the way campaigns get funded. That's the sort of thing H.R. 1 is trying to do. That's the sort of thing Ro Khanna is trying to do. But that's the sort of thing that we don't have a president to support right now. We don't have Democratic presidential candidates who are making it the champion issue right now. And it won't get done unless they do.